goats or something.
Must have been. I don't know.
Something,
He did much with the goats. I don't know, man.
right? Isn't it goats in your house, the
Yeah,
backyard?
goats, sheep, chickens.
Sheep. Maybe it was sheep. I don't know.
Got that. We got some of those. Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
late. There was a bonfire. We were having beers. I don't know. I don't
Shit happens. I'm
know.
gonna wait and see. Skylar, I think, was gonna try to log on, and then also I think Guy is gonna try, but so we'll wait and I'll wait a second here and see. Joe, thank
Yeah,
you for
Guy was
staying up
out.
past
I
your
think it was
bedtime.
last week. I was talking to Guy and his group down there. Was it last week, Travis? I
Yeah,
talked to your brother. I can't remember.
it was. That's what Guy said. Guy said
Okay.
he called y'all in or something.
Yeah, I can't. I don't remember. I've been doing so many podcasts and webinars. I can't remember.
Yeah, you have some good. I've watched a couple of them, man. There's been some good ones. Some really good ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that Guy had talked about that I'm sure he mentioned to you, and I'm sure Wes has mentioned, but just want to make sure it's on this recording. Is there's a lot of I don't know if they're successful or what, but they're trying to reach out to these students and rope them into some stuff that I don't think is going to be beneficial to them. And we're just trying to get some good content out there that doesn't cost them an arm and a leg. When I was in school, they
Right.
told us if you wanted to know some stuff, buy a chiropractor a drink and ask them questions. And none of us had any damn money to do that, right? So, and then we didn't know what to ask. So we're trying to provide something that would help some of these guys fresh out of school. And right now, from what I'm hearing from Guy, and maybe Wes is hearing from Logan and his group, is that they need some rags to riches success
Sure.
stories, to hang on to. So
Sure.
that's where that's where I think a lot of this is going to be going.
Well,
Yeah.
there's like yeah, and there's two things mainly. Like number one, kind of letting the students know that I think when you've been in practice, like Joe, weren't you 30 years?
36.
36 years. God dang, I
Yeah.
didn't know you were that old. I'm sorry, brother.
And I appreciate that. It's a
you're
shampoo
too,
I use in
you're
my
too
hair.
damn good looking
It's
for
a
that old.
shampoo.
So
I'll fully admit it. I'll fully
I
admit it.
think we forget at times the beginning. And
Yeah.
so, like when you're talking to some of the coaches out there and the successful doctors, they start talking success and they start talking now and now and now, and then they get asked that question. Okay, so like I'm second year in practice, I've got this going on. What do I do? And the answers, I think, sometimes are like, well, wait a minute, I haven't even got to step one yet, and you're telling me to take step six. Like
Yeah.
this is a
Exactly.
difficult situation, and so giving the students some content. I got a couple other interviews lined up, and I told you earlier, Joe, that I'm wanting to interview Nicole Sestarno.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Come
Yeah.
on. She works, what, 2 days a week and is just absolutely rocking
Yeah.
it.
2.5 days a week. Yeah.
And a female who's got the family, she takes care of her family, does all
Yeah.
that stuff. I mean, they need to see these things and they need to also know that they have us to talk to. We're approachable. They can contact us.
Absolutely.
You're not gonna grow their practice. With no, how do I say this, with no reimbursement, if that makes sense. But we're here, man. We can help. We can do
Absolutely.
this and that. It's not a
Support.
problem.
Phone
So
call.
that was
Yeah.
one of the main reasons I wanted to do this. So let's jump into it. Guy's not on, so we'll just do the recording. So we'll just go ahead and go because Joe's got to get to bed. It is later.
I'm
Where
good. No, I'm good. I had some coffee. I'm ready, man. I'm ready to go.
you got at least 45 minutes in you. Huh?
Travis, what time do you go to bed normally?
I'm usually in bed by about 9:30 to 10 because
Okay. All right. So I'm not far off. I'm
I
nine.
give it
Fuck. BJ
I give
Palm.
it a 5:30 to go to the gym. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't have this chiseled fat like this
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
going to the
Yeah.
gym.
Got to work hard.
BJ Palmer was 9 o'clock for the record. So
He what?
BJ Palmer went to bed at 9 o'clock.
Really?
Oh yeah, like boom.
That was.
No question. Yeah.
I don't doubt for a second as structured as that guy was. No doubt.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another thing right there. So like when I was a student, I had access to Herbert Ross Reaver, man. The
Yeah.
year before he died, he came to Cleveland and he spoke. And that is a memory, and that meeting with him just sticks in my mind. So like you are one of the ones who you've got a coaching group now, but you've been there, you've been in the trenches for a lot longer than I have. So having that access, and you had access to Reggie Gold, you had
Yeah.
access to Jim Sigafus.
Yes.
Who else? The big dogs you had
Fred
access.
Barge,
Fred
Virgil
Barge,
Strange.
huge.
Yeah. Sid
and I didn't have
Williams.
access to those. So that's why, like,
Yeah.
that's why I chose you as a coach, that and
Yeah.
communication skills, because I get to reach into that realm, if that makes sense. And
Yes.
so we want
Yes.
the students to kind of have, the flow down trickle effect of the effects they've had on our lives, like the Herbert Ross Reaver situation with me, and move forward. So let's
Yeah.
let's just go. So what I want to
Yeah.
do is I want to start somewhat at the beginning and just ask you a couple questions, and just give you the mic. So let's start real simple. Like, what made you decide to become a chiropractor?
Yeah, so I was when I was born, I was about 12 pounds, got hung up in my mother's birth canal. They were forceps. I was a forceps birth, and I got pulled traumatic birth, 30 minutes ish, as my mother said. So after that, I had a lot of problems. My mother actually described it interestingly, where she said I didn't have that spark like my brother and sisters had that spark. I just didn't have that spark. I was flaccid. I had torticollis. You can still see sometimes the side of my face is down just a little bit on that left side. So I had some facial paralysis from the forceps. And then I was a sickly kid, double ear infection, a lot of antibiotics, a lot of steroids. And then I started getting seizures. Started with petit mal, went into grand mal seizures. And obviously, like any parent, you're freaking out and you're trying, everything, and my parents, Italian family, dad's immigrant, so they're just kind of old school and kind of whatever the medical doctor said is that's kind of how they were raised. You follow what the priest said and what the medical doctor said. So give them this, try this. We went to Rochester, which is about 2.5 hours from the house. Didn't have health insurance back then. So my dad's, forking out CAT scans and stuff out of his pocket. Wasn't a wealthy family. And they said, hey, your kid's got, seizures and some health issues, but everything looked fine. And that is what they told my folks. So they were kind of frustrated. You're glad I don't have a brain tumor, but like, give me something. So there was a family right next door to us. Paul and I was a kid I grew up with, but they had 5 kids. They were from Hawaii, and they all went to the chiropractor every month. The whole family went and got adjusted. So Mrs. Nye had been telling Edwina, her name was, she kept telling my mother to bring me to a chiropractor. I don't remember this, of course, it's through family story, right? So my mother's finally, after exhausting what I figured to be the medical approach, they brought me to a guy by the name of Dr. Bill Thazier, and I'm 4 years old at the time, and I'm not functioning well. I remember putting I had sensory integration, like if I put different things in my mouth, like textural things, it bothered me. Metal, taste of metal, like blueberries, nuts. I remember that vividly, putting that in my mouth. So in any case, he talked to my mother, said, "Tell me about your son's birth." My mother started to cry, and the doc said, "What's up?" She says, "I've been asking the doctors this for 4 years. I think something happened when they were pulling on him, and that's what I think caused him. I think they damaged something in his spine or his brain." And so Dr. Thazier took an X-ray, obviously occipital, upper cervical atlas. I don't remember the listing. I will say I don't remember the listing, but it was on the right side. I just had a full scan by Michael Cohen. So he did the 3D scan with the X-ray. It was pretty awesome. But in any case, he started to adjust me 3 days a week for 6 months. And really, it wasn't like that miracle adjustment where, one time, but every month I got better. Stopped, my seizures slowed, less frequent, and as my mother says, and then I stopped getting them. I stopped getting sick. Textural issues went away, and my mother said that one day she saw me in the corner about 6, 9 months later. I was playing with my brother and sisters, and again, in her words, there was the spark that I never had. There was that shininess, that spark. She describes it, and she knew at that point that I was well and I had gotten better. So that was my miracle. I mean, and my mother and father said, "My God, if it's this good for my son, imagine how good it is for us." So we all went for wellness care. We never went because we had backaches or neck aches or headaches or anything. And my dad drove us in a Pontiac Bonneville. I think it was $7. I think something like that. That rings a bell. To get adjusted, and my dad would hand my mom some money, and we'd all, kind of go in, and then my dad would watch a couple of us in the car because he didn't want to bring us all in at the same time, and then my dad would bring a couple of us in. My mom would get back in the car, and we went to see Dr. Thaser every month, and so my parents ran an Italian restaurant, and which you've been to, and my parents said, "Hey, listen, we're going to turn the business over to you guys." Sat us down. My brother's 5 years older than me, and my brother was excited. He was about 17. I was 12. I started to cry. They said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I don't want to go into restaurant business. Dad's miserable. 90 hours a week. What are you kidding me?" And they said, "What do you want to do?" And I was 12, and I said, "I want to do what Dr. Thaser does. I want to be a chiropractor." So that was, I didn't know really overall what it entailed, but I knew I wanted to kind of do that. He was a great guy, and he was always happy, and I loved seeing him. And so that's what it was. So I went through undergraduate, chose to go to national, which is, I didn't know the difference between what straight meant and principled meant and mixer meant and therapy. I didn't know any of that. I didn't even know what that meant. He was very when I say principled, he was very he adjusted only. He talked innate, he talked subluxation. Um, and then I went to national, and I'll tell you, I got out of national. I wanted to go to medical school. I was very I went in as a chiropractor, came out as an MD. I kind of got no philosophy, no understanding. It was very dismissive. Chiropractic wasn't even chiropractic, it was manipulation. It was described as one of the therapies that you could use. So I actually applied to Rush Medical, Buffalo Medical, Upstate Medical, and Chicago College of Osteopathy. Got accepted to all, and I was going to go. I was going to go to one of the schools, and my dad, and as always, turned to my dad and he said, "Hey, why don't you get out rather than take on more debt? Give it a couple of years. The school said they'd accept you for 2 years. Give it a year or two. Once you got accepted, it was good for a couple of years." And he said, "And see what it's like out there. If after you're in, you haven't even done it yet. Get out and see what you think. If you want to go back, do it." And so that's what I did. I got out and I opened a practice. Didn't know one damn thing I was doing. Did
Yeah,
everything
it
wrong.
went great, didn't
Everything.
it, Joe? Joe, it went great the first year, right?
I lost 24 grand. And you got to remember now, 36 years ago, that's like losing 60 grand now. I mean, I just put it in inflationary terms. And my parents funded me, helped me out. And then the second year, I still struggled, but I felt like I was doing better. I only had to borrow about 12 grand that year. So now I'm in the hole for about $36,000. And but I started getting a feeling like, well, I really want to make this work. I had pride in the way. I refused to ask help, get direction. I don't really remember why. Like when I think back in my head, I don't really remember why I didn't. But again, my father said, "Listen, there's got to be guys out there that are doing really well." Thaser was retiring, and he said, "Why don't you go talk to some guys, maybe pay somebody? Your mom and I will help you out. Pay somebody, coach, mentor, right, to kind of show you what to do." And I hired a guy, Brian Kozlo, a buddy of mine, Tom Horn, was with Kozlo Management down in New York. I hooked up with him. He brought in a speaker. A third of meeting I went. His name was Reggie Gold. He did a flip chart. You probably heard the talk. And he back then, before PowerPoints, you had to write everything by hand. And he said he got 100 guys coming in with back pain. 99 get better. One doesn't. When you drive home from work, who you thinking about? And he said, most people said, "I'm thinking about the one." He said, "Because you're thinking about therapy, you're thinking about treatment, you're not thinking about what you're really doing as chiropractor, removing interference, allowing the body to express itself. You guys think you're doing the healing, you're not doing anything. The body's doing the healing." So he started talking, and I didn't really get what he was saying fully, but he was talking like Bill Thaser, my chiropractor, and he started talking in a way that, if I heard him 2 years earlier, I wouldn't have listened to him because I probably had pride in the way. But at that point, I was, my cup was empty. It was like, okay, fill me up here because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And that was really my journey. I became a chiropractor for the first time, listening to him, and I became, a Reggie disciple. I followed him all over the country, mostly Toronto, Philadelphia, and then Sherman College, and listened to him all the time. Worked with Sid Williams. I would go to DE. I would go to Fred Schofield. I went to CJ Mertz, along with some other guys, and I I had probably 3 or 4 coaches at one point. At one time, I was paying, and we went from Bob Adams was my first practice member. He worked for AT&T before AT&T Bell, and then telephone, and then Elizabeth Boyke was my second. I had my original appointment book. my my first week, second week, the appointment book was empty. My third week, I had Bob Adams Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I think I was getting paid like $25 an adjustment back then.
It's all
So
right.
I was $75, yeah.
That's
So
awesome. That's
yeah, it
awesome.
was funny. So, anyways, I went through that. I went from seeing like 2 people a day to 2 people an hour to I mean, we just did crazy. I mean, we got to the point where we had police officers out in front of the practice. We were seeing so many people, and we adjusted only. Not that there's anything wrong with doing anything else, but I just became a subluxation. Look for anything that impeded the body's ability to heal and express itself, and studied the science, studied the clinical aspect of it, came up with some real phenomenal, through mentors and coaches, phenomenal ways to analyze and assess subluxation that I felt were solid and reproducible. And at the time, before a lot of the tech came in, and we started seeing babies and families, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, and my adjustment time was probably 30 seconds, and we saw hundreds of people in the morning and hundreds in the afternoon, and we became one of the highest so-called volume and overhead successful. We had about a 20%, 18% overhead, and we became one of the most successful solo practitioners in the profession. So
Yeah, and I think that overhead point or part is a big part, especially when you're starting up. So let how long, if you recall, how long did it take for you in practice to, let's say, hit like a mark of 200 a week?
see, the first 2 years I was barely seeing anybody by year two. So once I hooked up with Reggie and a couple of guys that were teaching me protocol procedure, I didn't have any structure. People come in like, "Hey, Wes, what are you coming in with?" And if your heel hurt, if your knee hurt, your shoulder hurt, your ear hurt, like I was doing all kinds of stuff. I had diathermy and high volt, low volt, microcurrent. I mean, hot packs, cold fucking packs. I had everything, man. And
And it
yeah, so
wasn't
it was
working.
probably about 4 years. It was the second 2 years after I hooked up with Reggie. It was probably 2 years after that, I would say, where I started seeing a couple of hundred a week, and that, quickly within a couple of years after that turned into a couple hundred a day, and then it just became more than a couple hundred in the morning. So
So already it takes 4 years or so for you to get
yeah,
to that point of around 200,
yes,
and then it takes even longer to get to the point of making a million. You've made obviously a million,
yes.
sure. So then it takes even longer to get to that point, and then you just continue to build. So you've been my coach for 10-ish years now, and I've heard you say this before, but I want you to say it on this recording. So when you're first in practice, let's say you do have coaching this and that, and you have some guidance. Is it a situation where you get the procedures to get the patients, or does the patient volume come first and then you put procedures in? In your eyes, what's the best way to navigate that scenario? In other words, do you put procedures in place that work and then wait, then the numbers grow? Or is it a matter of, okay, I'm going to get to 200, and when I get to 200, then I'm going to implement these procedures and stuff like that?
You want the procedures in place right away. Like we're opening 3 offices right now, three newer docs, and 2 of them are in Australia. And yeah, we do a 6 day, and again, we've talked about this, and Travis does things a little, Travis flavor, right, with a little Borio. And then Wes, you're doing some of that with a little Borio. Logan, you'll do, hey, like this, but I'm going to put, there's no right or wrong.
Oh,
I
wait,
mix
are
it
you
in.
trying to say that there are multiple ways you can be successful in
Yes,
practice. Is that
yes,
what you're saying?
yes,
I think these kids need to hear this. That's what I
yes,
really think they need to hear.
yes,
And to learn a little bit from, I pick up gems from everybody.
yes,
Even from some folks that are not where I am in practice, that has
yes,
just been fantastic. And that's what that is the essence of what we're trying to do for these young guys,
yeah,
is just
yeah,
get them, get them some stuff that they can chew on.
yes. You're
And
you're
different
gonna, and we've all had that experience. Mostly family, right? Like you probably had this, Travis, right? And Wes, right? With Logan, maybe, right? You'll say something to Logan 1,000 times, right? And then all of a sudden, Logan will hear the same thing from somebody else, and they'll be like, "Oh my God!" Like, and you're like, well, "I've been telling you that
Uh,
for like 3 years,
it's a
right?"
third party perspective. It's the same thing
Exactly,
whenever you're
exactly.
coaching.
So
Yeah.
same thing with coaching. You're going to hear somebody on stage. You're going to hear somebody one on one. You're going to sit down with somebody over a drink and a bonfire like we did at, Wes who was kind enough to have a bunch of us over a couple times and up at his camp and all of a sudden something's going to resonate with you. So maybe you needed to hear it 1,001 times, or
Oh.
maybe you just needed to hear somebody else say it in a different way. But what I was going to share when I got into this thirst of back in the day when I was practicing, the a high volume practice and the metric of that was what was the KPI. It was the measurement of how focused, dedicated you were as a chiropractor. So it wasn't really how much money you were making, though that was a side effect. But if you were seeing, 100 a week versus 100 a day versus 100 a morning versus 100 an hour, that was really, what was so-called revered or recognized. I know the world's different now. But so that being said, I shopped. I was with Reggie, and Reggie said, "Look, go listen to some other guys." So I went to Sigafus's office. I went John. Some of you guys probably never your students, but there was a guy by the name of D'Onofrio. I met with Virgil Strange. I met with Fred Barge because his dad actually had a stroke and he was practicing with one hand. If you guys know that story, Ian Grossman down in Florida. I met with a lot of guys. What I learned was everyone did something. It wasn't dramatically different, but different. But you were asking me about protocols. Everyone did the exact same thing with everyone in their office.
Gotcha.
So Joe D'Onofrio processed everybody exactly the same. But he didn't wing it. He had protocols and procedures freaking dead on. But his protocols were different than Ernie and Landy, who took over Reggie's office. They were doing things a little different. They were all working probably 6 days a week. Most of them had home offices. Many of them did that I went and visited. They were all seeing a thousand a week. Big family practices. They didn't really back then. It wasn't pediatric and then family. It was all really kind of family practice. So you brought the kids in, mom and dad, the baby, the whole 9 yards. So that's what I learned. So when you were saying, Travis, that's what they need to learn. One thing I would say, there's different ways to do it. So take some people that you resonate with. If you want to reproduce what I did, you got to do exactly what I did. If you want to kind of take what I did, but maybe not reproduce it exactly, you got to, mix it up a little bit with some other things. Second thing is you don't need a lot of money. A guy, your brother and I were talking, and they were asking me like, "Hey, what do you need?" I'm not telling you. You could get a loan, SBA, take out a couple $100,000, 250. I mean, Jesus, you already owe a couple 100,000, most of you guys. So I don't know that I would do that. I was in Italy. I got a place in Italy. I got this shack in the back, and I had two tables that we made by hand. I have two autonomic charts in the room, and one day, it was about 3 weeks into it. We saw 58 or 53 or 58 people, no phone, no nothing, and people are paying $40, an adjustment, and we had towels, beach towels for the headpiece. So I'm not saying that's the ideal practice, but I think we get into this idea that I need the big beautiful this and the big beautiful that. None of those offices that I saw were anything spectacular as far as you left and went, wow, that was a gorgeous office. But you left and were like, damn, like that was a great adjustment. There was value of what was happening in that guy's hands and at that table.
So
So
what
my
you're saying
feeling,
is
go ahead.
confidence. So what you're saying is confidence
Your
It
mentality.
trumps, yeah. Your your confidence in your craft is more valuable than all the bells and whistles that you
100%.
can put in them.
Yes. Yes. You need a couple of tables. You're going to need a couple of computers. You could do Google Voice, which is free. I just set up a couple offices here in the last year. I said, guys, let's do it on the down low. Get used equipment, get used tables. They're cheap. Get a Hill table or something like that. Wes owns that company. So get Hill tables, and then you're gonna you need two of them. You need a couple computers. You need Google Voice on your phone and on your computer. I mean, X-ray's nice. Do you have to have it? That's pretty much what you need. You need some autonomic charts. You start talking tech, you can add all the bells and whistles in time, but why take on a huge amount of debt and then be scared in practice or being laying in bed, with feeling like you're losing your hair and having a heart attack every day because you're afraid of, making the nut. When reality, you start off a little easier, you start bringing people in. As you make more money, you buy more stuff. So
The building's not going to bring the people in.
no,
It's you and what you're about, and
yes.
those things. So you were talking about procedures and this and that, and I'm going to bring up a word that's kind of a scare word to a lot of people. So what you're saying is, it's
Yeah.
not a bad idea to potentially early on and maybe throughout practice to have what's called a script.
Oh, oh, oh. Yes.
So
Yes.
okay, so why is that? Like when you tell me this, tell them this. So what was when you hit your peak? What were you seeing
Yeah.
a day? How many people?
Yeah, our peak, and again, some of these numbers to some people
Just
are just
just
like they
peak.
don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
make sense.
I
Yeah,
have
we were
I have a
seeing our
reason for this.
busiest day in practice was 687,
Okay.
and
So you're seeing 600,
600
500
plus
plus
three
people
days a
a
week.
day.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing that many people, and you've got these scripts, basically. You've got these procedures that you follow. And so, what is the benefit so that they can hear this to seeing that many people and having a script? What does that do for, let's say, the doctor?
Yeah. Well, one is going to give you consistency.
Thank you. Which is
So
going to give you confidence.
I can't wing it. Now
No,
you're gonna hear my script and you're gonna go like, maybe it won't resonate with you. Well, read it over 1,000 times. If you got to tweak a little bit of it, okay, go ahead and tweak it. But one is I want to say the same thing with precision. I want to be concise. I want to have clarity every single time I say it. If I'm winging it, then I also lose control of my clock. All of a sudden, then your staff or yourself. If you have a new practice member coming in, you can't be 10 minutes with Wes, 37 minutes with Logan, an hour and a half with Travis. Like you got to be okay. They're in and out in 30 minutes. My adjustment time is 2 minutes or whatever. Like part of that is that timing of what you're saying, what you're not saying, and being concise and consistent. So that's why scripts are vital. They're critical for growth, not even just volume, but for growth of your practice. So
have an outline of some kind to follow so that you don't. I mean, so it also it makes it easier. You don't have to put a lot of thought into the other
correct,
stuff that goes into
correct.
starting up a practice or that goes into taking care of patients and this and that. So you're like you said, there's clarity there, right?
Yes,
There's something you can follow. You can vary off the scripts or whatever, but like Travis always says, even those people that say, "Well, I don't have a script," well, that's your freaking script. If you don't have a
everybody's
script,
scripted.
you're saying something and you're saying
Right,
it repetitively. You're not going with
right,
each individual and not saying something simple.
correct,
If you are,
correct.
your practice
So
is
the
gone.
guys that say they're not scripted, all of them are scripted. If I followed them around, they say something similar
My
to,
daughter almost scored.
Nope.
but you got to be
We're,
scripted. So
we're winning 4-0.
Oh, there you
Sorry. I had a dad moment there. Sorry.
go. You're allowed to have them. It's okay, man.
you know what chiropractic's about? Chiropractic's about is being alive, enjoying your life, so you can go have a dad moment, right? So
Oh
that's
yeah.
what it's all
Heck, look
about.
at this. I got my kid down there in
Yeah,
Milo. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's big time for me. So and that's
yeah.
part of I'll share this with you. I don't think I've shared this with you, Joe. So this was something I didn't know. So I met a bunch of Logan's friends a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, something like that. We're sitting down to dinner, and I was asking them all, "Why do you want to be a chiropractor?" Each one of them answered, and I go, "Okay," I was done. And Logan goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what about me?" And I was like, "I already know the answer, but I guess you go ahead." And his answer, his response, it wasn't what I thought it would be. I thought it was
Huh.
because Dad was a chiropractor, right? And he said, "No." He said, "Dad, when I worked for you, He said the relationship you had with your patients. He goes, I remember Christmases that you would need like boxes and stuff to take out the stuff, the food and everything that they made you, and to to take the gifts and do all that. And he was like, no, it's the relationships that you had. And he said, and not only that, he said, you never missed a game.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's bad to miss a game, but it's that I
Yes.
was able to make a hell of a living, you know what I mean, to have a hell of a great life and still get to go do those things. And that is something that chiropractic will provide for you versus the medical community. If you know somebody who's in the medical community, God love them. They are slaves to what they do, especially in the beginning. You know, a surgeon's going to work 60 hours, 30 to 60 hours a week, and they're going to have the worst hours and they're going to be on call and they miss everything and all that. Chiropractic is different. It's harder to get started in, but that's why it's harder, because the reward to me is so much better. So much better. You can rearrange. Like, can you imagine a surgeon whose kid's got a 4, let's say a state game and it starts at 4 and they have a surgery, it starts at 3:30. They're not going to reschedule that surgery. They can't. They can't do that. So I thought that was amazing that, when he shared that, that was not what I expected. I figured it was just because I was,
Yeah. That's pretty cool. You know, I said that on Guy's interview. I said one of the moments I knew something was different was Christmas. And all of a sudden we just started getting, like you're saying, boxes and boxes of stuff. And you realize you have a relationship with these people. And
Totally.
again, it was just one of those days where you're like, wow, what's going, what is happening? What's going on?
I'll
The
share
other part
something.
is I like working with healthier people. Like if I'm taking care of him and he's my practice member and his wife and kids are coming in, maybe somebody came in because they didn't feel good, right? But I get the whole family in. I'm good at getting the whole family in. But now I'm taking care of a bunch of healthy people. It's not like I'm sick and diseased. They're coming in on the table, you're high-fiving, you're hugging. Hey, we're talking about thriving, not surviving. We're getting your body power on. Nerve messages are flowing. Hell, I can hear your body working. My body's working better right now. Boom, they take off. You're on to the next one. It was high energy. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It wasn't stressful. It was
There's a
fantastic.
key right there. So, Joe, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you feel the way I do. I feel like by not having a pain-based practice, I don't
Yes,
think that these students, when they're young and get in practice, they understand how do I say this? Like, if you're a psychologist all day and you see 100 people as a
yes,
psychologist who all they're doing is coming in and dumping their
yes,
problems on you, they're
yes,
negatives, negative, negatives,
yes,
it takes away from you and your health, right?
yes.
So if you transition from that, I don't know a lot of high volume pain based practices. I really
Right.
truly don't. I know a lot of high volume health based practices.
Yes,
And
yes,
to me, that's because when you have that negative, that constant negative, like what's wrong? Oh, you got Sue, and Sue's like, oh my God, where do I start? And you're like, oh
yeah.
shit,
Don't
what did I
touch
say?
me.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, don't touch it. It's gonna hurt worse. Exactly. Like, why did I do this again? And by the end of the day, you're freaking drained because of all the negative, 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 and all you want to
Right.
do is help people with their health. And now you're
Yes,
like, shit, I think
yes,
I'm crazy. Maybe
yes,
my back hurts a little bit now
yes.
versus the other. And so I see that, I think early on you don't know that hey, you're going to be helping these people, and if you're wanting to help 100 a day, 200 a day, 300 a day, whatever it is, if you're pain based, it's gonna get hard. It
Yes,
just is, and
yes.
that's just something that I've kind of seen. So back to mindset.
Well, hang on. How do you balance that with not missing the patient that slipped and fell a couple days ago, but forgets to tell you about it?
Yeah, so you're gonna when they're walking in, they're gonna lie down. They're educated that if there's an event, a traumatic event, if there's an issue going on, that they need to let us know, then they would, like, hey, they got into a car accident. But you're also, you get really, really good at noticing it. So if I've been taking care of Travis for 6 months and he comes laying on the table, I mean, you just know everybody. So you're gonna look at him and go, dude, like, your right side's in Texas and your left side's in Oklahoma. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, what happened this weekend? Like, you'll know it, you'll see it almost all the time. And if there's anything, you put your clinic hat on and you get them off the table, you bring them in the room, have a conversation with them, get an X-ray if it's necessary, and move forward from there. But yeah, that's how you do it.
Totally. I mean, of course you nailed it. You're the coach. Of course you nailed it. But that's
You
it.
train them. You
Yeah.
train them.
Exactly. You
Train
train patients
yourself.
to be great.
You train yourself. You
Right.
do so. Like Logan, when he came one time with, I think, and Skyler, another guy that's going to Cleveland, came and shadowed, right? And they said, I said, so how can I make it better next time you shadow? And Logan even said, he goes, well, next time you can tell me what you're doing. And I looked at him, I go, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I innately I walk into the freaking room, and
Right.
when you start to touch them and you sense them, and you're like, wait, what's going on? What is everything okay? Is what I always ask. And they go,
Yeah.
well, no, I'm hurting in a new spot and we'll see if you can find it. And I always go, oh, I love this freaking game. This is a
Yeah.
great game.
Yeah.
So I know other practitioners, because I've followed them, who do the whole, no, go ahead and sit up and tell me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Were you not taught to palpate? Like, just palpate.
Right.
Like let your skills be, let them be tested. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, and some of them you miss now and again, but let's put it this way, Logan, I'll add to that. If you've got a patient that comes in with a massive issue, they're going to let you know.
Yeah.
There's a change in issue. You're going to see the change in the way they act, period. So, because they want to let you know. So the balancing act there, I think partly what you're asking there is, you're going to have patients who are in pain from time to time. There's nothing wrong with that, because
100%.
what is an outcome of subluxation? Pain. That is an outcome of subluxation. But then my job is always to then take them from that to, okay, you broke your arm, it hurts. What's the problem?
Exactly.
Is the pain the problem, or is your broken arm the problem? Your broken arm is the problem. Okay, let's find out where your arm is broken. Let's go figure this out, if that makes sense. So through scripting and through your confidence, you the ones that are off, if that makes sense, that have changed the way that it's easy to handle those jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I was saying earlier, Travis said you train them. Like, one of the things I learned is you make your patients great.
Yeah.
You lead them to understanding what chiropractic is. You lead them to know how to come in and get adjusted. You walk in, your adjustment starts when you walk in, not when I walk in. You lay down on the table, you get out of gravity, take a breather. I get a better read on you. I get a better correction on you. Like, you teach them all that. If there's a problem or something going on, you need to talk to the doctor, talk to one of the CAs. Let us know before if we got to, do additional exam or checkup or an X-ray. But that was one of the things I learned, that, you kind of think because what do I know? I know medical, right? After that gap of leaving my chiropractor, and now I go to chiropractic, so I'm taught like medical. So then you come out and we act like we're medical doctors. We'll sit down and tell me what's going on, and reality, it's like, look, the end, I'm looking for where your body's crooked. There's no health in crooked. Body doesn't work better crooked. No book I've ever read said your body and nervous system work better crooked. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. Straighter is healthier. Let's get you straighter. Find out where you're crooked, start pushing on you. So
through that, something I learned very recently that you've taught me for years. Here we go back to that whole, you hear something 1,000 times and it never clicks. And I heard it from someone else and I was like, holy crap, I know exactly what you're doing. I think I contacted you and I said, Joe, I get it now. And it's establishing that concern. So
yes.
come in with the pain-based model or situation, and you've got scripts, you've got procedures and everything that is not, medically oriented. Let's say that, because it's a separate profession, right? That helps you gear them away from and steer them away from, okay, pain, without them even knowing it. It's not a good idea to look at the patient and go, well, I don't care about pain.
Right.
That's not a good script.
No.
Okay, you have pain. I don't care about your pain. I want to know about da-da-da-da. So you have to, through your procedures and all that, and establishing concern, because let's be honest, Joe, what percentage of patients come in and they know what their concern is?
Right. Right.
What's their concern?
Right.
It freaking hurts right here.
Right.
Fix it. Right. That's
I'm sick on the outside, I always say.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
I'm sick on the outside, but why are you sick on the outside? Because you're sick on the inside. I mean, you're only sick on the outside because you're sick on the inside. So in this case, we're looking to see where the body. So why are you sick on the inside, right? Why are you sick on the outside? If your body's a self-healing regulating system, then in many cases, not in every single case, right? But in many cases, the body's losing its ability to heal as well as it should. So if I can remove that interference, the body's not able to adapt. If I can remove that interference to the nervous system, to innate, allow the body to heal. That was a big step. Like, I always thought, well, do you get nervous in the office or whatever? Well, only when I think I'm doing the healing, when I think I'm the important person. But when you realize, wait, I'm not really the important person. I'm a facilitator. I'm not saying I'm not doing something. I'm not saying I'm not part of it. But I don't adjust dead people because they don't heal, right? So if you're alive, there's living force, vital force in you, and that's what's going to do the healing. I could get joint cavitation on a cadaver all day long, but they're not going to heal. So now you got a living system in there that's breaking down. Let's remove that. Are there other components? Of course. I mean, if they're smoking 3 packs and they're eating McDonald's every day and they've never taken, their nutrition's horrible and they sit on a couch all day, yeah, I can adjust them. Better to be unsubluxated than not. Do you want to address some of those other factors? Yeah, whether you do it in-house, whether you do it out-house and send them to somebody that you take care of. But in reality, that's the focus as the primary focus of the chiropractor is what? Get the sick healthy and prevent the healthy from getting sick, D.D. Palmer. And I'm going to do that through the means of removing any interference to the giant within, right? As BJ said, giant versus pygmy. The giant within is innate. It's the body's ability to heal. I want to remove that interference, let the body work the way it's supposed to. So,
yeah. Let's jump back real quick. We only got a few minutes here left, so let's go back to your practice, your early practice days, and this and that. So there obviously was a turning point in your practice career where you went from borrowing money from mom and dad to now I'm making money. You know what I mean?
Yes.
What would you say was the most significant happening that occurred that made you, or let me put it this way: why didn't you quit? Why didn't you give up when you're borrowing money from mom and dad? Practice is going down. What was it in you or with you or whatever that made you go, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep. I'm going to. Why did you keep? What made you keep searching for that answer?
Yeah, I would say because when I was 12 years old, I wanted to be a chiropractor. So I wanted to do what Bill Thaser did for me, and I wasn't even close to doing that. I wasn't the doc that grew into that yet. So I would say that was probably the biggest part of it. Like I didn't fulfill what I wanted to do, and time wasn't an issue. I didn't go, well, I've been at it for 2 years. I never really even thought of it that way. I'm like, okay, you know what? I need another year. Like one more year, I'll get this figured out. One more, Mom, I need another 12 grand in one more year. I got it fucking nailed now. You know what I mean? So I think that's where my head was going at that time. And then really hooking up with some people, who's on your porch. I hear Travis talk a lot about that. I mean, in US, who you surround yourself with, church, community, family, people that are your friends, other colleagues. You start hanging out with a bunch of knuckleheads, you're going to be a knucklehead. You start hanging out with a bunch of successful people. And I don't just mean money in their pocket, success, character, integrity, work ethic, people that are honest and have faith, you become them. And those are attributes that allow you to be more successful. And then they're going to support you. I don't want to hang around with a bunch of complainers. I don't want to be with Wes and go, oh, Wes, Jesus, it's horrible. Oh, Joe, it's horrible. It's horrible. I want to get around Wes, man. Joe, give me a hug. Come here, man. Listen, you got it. I was there. But you know what? I did this and this. Hey, let's try this. Call me this week. Let me see what else we can do. Like, those are the people you surround yourself with. That's what makes you successful, right?
Camaraderie. It's huge. Yeah. So one of my favorite sayings comes from a man, Joe, and I have it all over my office. And it was, every winner is a loser that didn't quit.
My dad. Yeah.
Every winner is a loser that didn't quit. That means you're not going to avoid the L. You're not going to avoid the L.
Right.
I'm a big Thunder fan, right? Oklahoma City Thunder, NBA. They still lose games. They don't finish a season undefeated. It's never happened. So it's like,
why you got that off a landman. That's where you got that off of.
That's all right.
Yeah.
My dad probably gave it to him.
Billy Bob Thornton asked his daughter, do you want to be a winner or a loser? She goes, I want to be a winner. He goes, well, first you got to be a loser.
Got to be a loser. Yeah. So it's going to happen with all the students. There are instances where you're going to lose. And so what I wanted them to see was insight into, so now Joe Borio, now let's say it, Joe, where are you living now, man?
I live down in Fort Lauderdale. So
you've afforded yourself an amazing life. And now you're doing what? You're focused on coaching and still continuing to help the profession, even though you're retired from practicing, or I
sold the practice last year, stepped away. I still have my hand in a little bit. I literally called some people I've taken care of for years that kind of fell off. I literally called some people today to get them back in the office. back up in New York. But you know, one of the things like we did that today on the webinar, one of the things that we do in our group coaching, mentoring, you know, whatever you want to call it, our community is we teach money. You know, a lot of people don't either have a relationship with money or understanding about money. My dad, you know, bringing it back to my dad, he gave me a great book, which is a great read, David Chilton, The Wealthy Barber. So that was an 18-year-old read that my dad gave my brother and I. Said, listen, I want you guys to be wealthy. I want you to learn about money. I want you to have a relationship with money, though he didn't word it exactly that way. I want you to read this book and then we'll talk about it. And so that was what we did, you know. So we started learning about investing and dollar cost averaging, law 72s. What's a 401k? What's an IRA? What's a Roth IRA? What's a SEP plan? What's a personal profit sharing? You know, what does it mean to invest? What's the difference of saving? What's a liability versus an asset? Appreciation versus depreciation? Like learning that stuff. So now what you hear a lot of guys, you'll see this in sports, right? Somebody makes millions and millions of dollars and then it's over and they don't have any money, right? So you see that with chiropractors. They're killing it. They're making a lot of money, but then, you know, you're only as good as last year. And if you're not making any money this year, you don't have any money. So how much have you invested? Have you bought assets? Have you secured your portfolio? Those are other big parts of what I bring to the table because nobody's really knows that. No one's really teaching it. And it's such an important part. Hey,
What up,
to be
Lou? Yeah, no, it's a huge part, man. And that's, brother, that's honestly what I mean, first of all, you are genuine. You just are. You are one of the most genuine individuals I've ever met. You are you're real. But the when it comes to chiropractic and when it comes to coaching, the reason you are my last coach is simple. You take every aspect. You don't just do the one aspect. And I think that's something that students, I know early on for myself, gosh, it took me 20 or almost 20 years in practice. I think it's 15, 16 years in practice to even start thinking about money. That's what was crazy.
Yeah,
I come from
right.
a poor background that all I did when I'm making money, and I was making a lot of money, I didn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? So now
Right.
it's amazing how I think I looked this up a couple or maybe this year or a couple years ago. Do you know what the average age, Joe, is of a starting millionaire? Like when they first become a millionaire, what the average age is?
No. Yeah, I don't
57
know.
years old.
Wow.
57 years old is the average starting age of an individual becoming a millionaire. Dude, I'm
Yeah.
still not even there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's always time, and you have always interest. Like I had no interest in that stuff at all. I had no interest in managing my money. Big one for you, making my money work for me. I'd never
Yes.
understood what that meant until we had
Yes.
many conversations. And
Yes.
that is one thing I think is massive for for you. And that's why I wanted you to be the first interview on this because of your genuineness, because of what you bring to the table, and because you can help in so many ways. You've helped me in so many ways, so I know you can with the students as well. And I want the students to know they have access to that. If they're thinking about that early on and that's a thought process or whatever, they do have access to individuals out there that have the answers or at least
Yeah.
can provide guidance to those answers.
Yeah. I want the journey to be, you know, there's always going to be challenges, you know, there's bad stuff's going to happen sometimes, but I want you to feel great about being a chiropractor. I want you to feel proud. I want you to be excited. I want you to be able to not be able to contain it, you know, and you want to tell everybody. I want you to be proud of your practice and proud of the people you care for. And then I want you to be excited about it. And I want you to be happy. I want you to love going to the office and you can't wait and be proud of the people, your team, and just love it. And that oozes to the people, and that just makes you a better healer, and that makes you attractive to those people, and you have a better life. We teach a 3-day work week. You know, so I want you to balance. I made the mistake of, you know, being there. I'm a workaholic. So, you know, all of a sudden it's like, hey, be there 3 days. And then you can, like you grew up with Logan, right? And then, hey, your dad can go to stuff and be around and make you pancakes in the morning. And he's not 7 days a week and where's dad all the time, you know what I mean? And that's a beautiful life. You know, you get to spend time with your kids and watch them grow up. And so we certainly teach that. I'm not the only one out there that does it, but you know, we've done a great job at it and bringing other people to that land of success. And the best time to do it is, you know, I'll tell you real quick. We have two guys that joined Chiropassion recently. One guy's been in practice for 20 years, and one guy, they're very good friends, And one guy just got out of school, opened his office. He'd been open a month when he joined Chiropassion. Now, 6 months later, which guy is doing a lot better? Which guy has exploded his practice?
The new guy.
The new guy. Why?
Because he started out right.
Right. He doesn't, the other guy's like, well, I don't know. Geez.
No bad habits.
Right. I don't know if I can let that go. Let me do this. Jose, he doesn't know any different. Jose's like, okay, what do you want me to do, coach? Bing, bing, bing. Follow this, do this, do this. Boom. My God, prepays. He had 8 prepays last month. He already broke. I think he's at 150 people in a week. He was seeing like 30 6 months ago, thinking he wasn't able to pay his bills. But he exploded. So Dave's like, what the hell? Like, why am I go, Dave, because you're not doing what Jose's doing. You're still hanging on to 90% of what you were doing before. And you're trying to add little shit. Jose doesn't know any different. He just added everything, So
Absolutely.
So
man.
better to start off right out of school than, like Travis just said, start with bad habits or bad mindset. And now you're trying to change that and fear creeps in. So
absolutely. And you limit your mistakes through the mistakes of others, and through learnings you can limit. We're all going to make mistakes. Like you said, you're still going to make mistakes, but why should we all repeat these same mistakes?
Yes, exactly.
When there are others out there who can say, let me caution you potentially against doing that. That's not saying that this way is the only way. It's not. Right. But the little mistakes here and there, like, hey, I'm going to start out like a first year. What coach out there would tell a first year person, yeah, go spend $700,000-$800,000 on a building? That's a good idea. One. So go do that. No, every one of them is going to say the same thing. We've done this, we've done that. I tell you what, go start out small, give it 5-10 years. Right. And I promise you, at that point, boom, you're going to be in a good spot. So you learn from the mistakes of others. Otherwise, you're well, what do they say? You're bound to repeat it. So yeah, if that's the way you want to run it, that's great.
And there's a couple other aspects, like the unearned dollar. Like a lot of times, when it comes to coaching, for example, bringing somebody in, and, we're always willing to help people out anyways, but we forget, like, we look at things as an expense, and you forget the unearned dollar. You're looking at everything as a cost, and you got to be smart about it. There's good expenses and bad expenses, but the unearned dollar is what you don't see. It's what you didn't make. So it's by not doing something that didn't bring that person in that now you never made that. Most people don't look at that. They get so hung up on, well, I got to pay this and I got to pay that. It's like, well, wait a minute. If you're going to run some ads, if you're going to do something, get a good ROI, make sure you got a good execution of that marketing or promotion that you're doing. But in the end, it's valuable to do that because that's going to bring all those people in. If not, you're not going to make that money. That's money you never saw. That's the unearned dollar. That is a massive expense. So that's why you hear older people go, boy, if I knew then what I know now, well, that's the unearned dollar. Well, if I knew then, I would take all the knowledge I have, go back 20 or 30 years and apply it. That's the unearned dollar that you would apply. So hang out with people that you want to be a millionaire, hang out with multimillionaires. Don't hang out with your buddy who's struggling and go, hey, what'd you do this weekend? Well, what are you doing? Like, why would you take advice from a poor person if you want to be rich? Why would you take advice from someone who's struggling in practice if you want to grow? Go to people that are crushing it and go, what the fuck are you doing, man? Show me what you're doing. I want to do that. And that's how you do it.
They're willing to share, I promise. And that's one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing and why we wanted to start this is Travis and I have talked for years and years and years about what we wanted when we were first out, what we didn't know we wanted, but what we wanted when we were first out. And now here we are years in practice. Now we can go back and go, okay, here's what I would have wanted. And now I've got my son in chiropractic college and he's got his brother in chiropractic college. And so we've talked to them a lot and you start to go, okay, we need connection. We need to know that these students, these young chiropractors, because I want the future of the profession to be strong. I don't want it to be, I don't want them to get these stories out about, oh, well, it's a struggle and there's no good to that. You know what I mean? It's all struggle. Horrible. It's so hard. It's so difficult.
Yes.
I tell you, it's difficult. It's hard. It ain't any harder than life. It's actually, it provides you the best life that an individual can have, unless you're down in the dumps mentally.
I had people asking me, and I'm sure you guys too, you're over on the weekends or doing stuff like, dude, when do you work? I love that question.
All right, so I had a
How about
guy.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday? What are you doing this weekend? I'm off Tuesday. What are you doing?
Here's
No,
my.
I'm off this Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's it, man.
That's
Rest
it.
of the time, I'm spending time with my family and my kids and having a great life. So,
All right, I'm going to give a line here that I probably, my son's on here, but I'm still going to say it. So I actually say this to my patients. I had a lady ask me, she's an older lady. She asked me last Wednesday. She's like, so doc, I got a personal question. I said, okay. And she
uh-oh.
goes, like, what do you do on Thursdays and Fridays? And I looked at her dead in the face. Travis knows my answer. I looked at her dead in the face. I said, well, Gina, hookers and blow.
Right.
And
Exactly.
she looked at me and she goes, what?
Exactly.
And I go, hookers and blow. I party like a rock star. I'm like, no, I don't do that. I said, listen, it's real simple. Years ago, I coached my kids. I coached both my kids. I coached for 29 years. And I said, I practice till 6 o'clock. And if I'm coaching these kids and it's daylight savings time and I get off at 6, I'm not getting to the ball field till 6:30. It's pitch black dark. So
Yeah.
I decided I was going to take off Thursdays and Fridays so we could get our practices in and all that. And I just didn't go back to doing it because it allowed me that time, that mental reset. That
Yes.
mental reset.
Yeah.
So yeah. So they all want it. They want what they don't know they want. And when you're young
Exactly.
in practice, it's the same thing. When you're young in
Exactly.
practice, do the 3 days a week and use those other 2 days to go talk to people. Go
Exactly.
market. Go do this. Go do that. But you don't need to be sitting in your practice with no patients in there doing nothing as far as marketing goes.
Right.
So, that goes back to the 3 days a week and doing all that stuff. So
Business cards in your wallet or purse, and who's your chiropractor? That's one of the best. It's a $10 million phrase. Hey, who's your chiropractor? Who's taking care of you? Who's your chiropractor? And you know what? I'm your chiropractor. Here's my card. I'm gonna write my name on there. Give me a call. You know what? Your first day, because I love you, I'm gonna do it at no cost. I'm gonna do a complimentary for you.
real
You
quick,
start doing that all day long. Shake hands, kiss babies.
yeah, the analogy you used, and I freaking loved it. Years ago, you said it, and maybe Travis Parker was different because his dating, lifestyle was a little different than mine. But you said, like, how many girls did you have to ask out before the first one said yes? Was it like you walk up to the first one and you said, hey, you want to go out? And she's like, yeah. You want to get married? Yeah. It was all just yes, yes, yes.
Right.
No.
Well, let me take my shirt off here real quick.
Dude, we're in the room with fellas.
Not for us. Not for us.
Yeah, wrong crowd. But how many no's do you have to get to the yeses? And so and that mentality takes you away from that whole, oh my God, I asked this person to come see me and they said no. And it's like, okay,
Right. Exactly.
yeah, it's the end of the freaking world, Go hand out your
Exactly.
cards, do all that stuff. And in the end, you'll get the return.
Exactly.
The
I
return.
imagine in my head, and like asking for referrals, I always say I got to ask somebody 20 times. So now I'm not dejected. Like if I ask Logan and he says no, I'm not like, oh my God, it's, this sucks. It's never going to work. I'm like, all right, 19 more times, and then if I get to 20 and Logan doesn't say yes, then I'm like, all right, cool. You know what? I had him off. He's at 30. I got to ask him 30 times. I was off. And I just play that game in my head. So I never really get dejected because I'm a persistent guy and it's too important. They need to be under care. They don't know what they're saying no to. They're saying no, but they don't know what they're saying no to, right? So you're there to try to lead them to a better decision so that they need chiropractic care for a lifetime. So
that's your genuineness, Joe. That right there, because I don't think it's forced from you. You are not forcing yourself to ask them 20 times. You're not forcing yourself to ask them 30 times. You genuinely care. You innately care.
yes.
You truly want their health and their success. It's just like the people you coach. You want your students, so to speak, to do well.
Yes.
You want them to be successful. Why the hell would you want them to not be successful?
Yes.
And so there's a genuineness behind you asking, and that's what makes it easy. When you're young, you're like, well, how do I do that? How do you not?
Right.
How do you not say to somebody who comes in and their husband or wife or comes in with them but never gets adjusted? How do you not say, hey, John, can I help you out? Like, what do you have going on? And just something, anything. And that's one thing you've taught me big time is if you don't take a bite at the apple, the answer is no.
Correct. The answer is always no if you say nothing. Listen, subluxated babies grow up to be sick, subluxated adults.
Love
so, better time to start is when you're a baby. Second best time is today. Yeah, it would have been better 20 or 30 years ago, but we can't do it. So unless you got a machine that's going to bring you back in time, in the meantime, let's get you checked now. But, I just learned that subluxated babies, I learned that years ago. Like subluxated babies grow up to be subluxated sick adults. So all babies need to be cared so they don't grow up to look in your x-ray like yours. And you need to care so you don't end up getting 3 times worse than you are right now. Let's do it.
I love it. So love it. We can end on that. So Logan, do you have, since you're on here, do you have any questions or, I'll open it to comments too.
Don't make them hard, Logan. I didn't study. So if you're asking
it's past his bedtime too.
Right.
I took coffee. I'm good.
I guess sort of my main questions would be, since you're basically retired and you say you're doing a lot of talks with a lot of people, how do you see that chiropractors such as yourself that are more well-known, have a bit more of a public presence, should be getting a message out to chiropractors? There's plenty of videos on social media of adjustments and all that stuff, social media fodder that people love.
Yeah.
How do you talk to chiropractors? Because there's just not, I saw your podcast on Chiro Hustle where it was amazing. My buddies were telling me about it. They were just like, this is electric. The way he's talking, how he's talking about the profession, he loves it. Where is that? No one knows where that is. So how can you get out there and how can you encourage, I guess, other chiropractors to talk to chiropractors in that way? Because right now it's very closed, of course, behind groups, and that's normal. It's closed behind coaching. How do you keep it broad? How do you talk to people?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I learned a lot only because of a great relationship with Travis and Wes. So to kind of jump back for a quick second, I started coaching, and Wes and Travis and I have talked about this. So I think everybody wants to do what I do, Logan. I'm thinking, wow, everybody wants to see 600 today. Everybody wants to do exactly what I do, exactly how I do it. And this is what everybody wants to do. So I'm out here, and I thought it was my job to teach people exactly what I was doing. And I was failing you, Wes, if you weren't doing exactly what I was doing. Like, that was my headspace. And it wasn't coming from a bad place. It was coming from a place where, wait a minute, everybody's kind of at a different place. So again, talking to these guys and they were part of other groups. They got together in groups. I think just having conversations like this is a big part of it. Making yourself available, talking to people on their terms. You're not wrong. You're not evil because you do, red light therapy in your office, or you tell somebody to take the NutriWest vitamin. We got into this kind of hate straight, years ago. And just like the other guys that are doing, let's say, a lot more therapies, the guy that wants to practice only adjustments, like, he's not bad either, right? So I think there's that. Where's our commonality? Where can we find a place that we share? Believe it or not, there's a lot more of that than what separates us. Yes. I think starting from those conversations and then making yourself available, caring enough about the well-being. I truly want other people to do well. There's a line that says, there's a people want you to do well, but not better than them. I grew up in a family was the opposite. That when you see somebody doing well, like, it's a blessing, and God shows favor on them. And many times you have no idea how hard they worked or what sacrifices they made to get there. So I think learning from people that are successful and making yourself available, being real, being authentic, being grounded is the key. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
Follow them on Facebook, do all those, follow them on Facebook, do those things. And a lot of them do.
YouTube. Oh yeah. I got a bunch of stuff. Go on chiropracticconsulting.com. I used to do Dr. Joe's health. I used to do thought flashes. I got a whole bunch of them on there. I used to do Dr. Joe's Save Your Life videos. So I would talk chiropractic, all the time. And we would text them and email them to our practice members. So we would do a video every week. They're all on there. A bunch of free stuff and Chiropassion's on there. I got a ton of stuff on my Facebook and Instagram. So it's a good way to get around. And then if anybody wants to, obviously Wes and Travis got a huge experience as well. But if they want to, all you got to do is reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to get on a phone call with you. So all good.
Yeah, got accessibility. Yep.
Well, what I love about you.
I'm easy.
Sorry.
I said I'm easy to get. I'm actually pretty easy to get hold of, and I'll call you back. So
Sweet. All right, one more question, and this one's just to kind of see what you'd say. So, if you had you've had it happen, but you've had a patient come in and they look at you and they say, you know what, I want to be a chiropractor. What are you saying to them? How are you talking to them?
yeah, first thing, if somebody, which I've had many times, somebody says, "Hey, I want to be a chiropractor." Great. Listen, why don't we do this? Let's set a day. We're going to do lunch. Come in the office. I'll meet you with the staff, and then I want you to watch me for a couple days, shadow me for a few days, and just get a vibe, of the practice, the energy. And then I want you to visit a couple other chiropractors, is what I tell them in the area, because it's a big decision, and I want you to make the right one. And that's what I would do. If after that they're like, "Hey, listen, I love it. I'm still full board." I know Jack Borla at Sherman. I'm calling them, and I'm going to get them an interview with the school, and I'm going to get them lined up. So that's what I would do.
Nice.
That's what I have done. I had one person, Janelle Peelis, her name is, and I saw her dad, her mom, the two sons, and Janelle. I saw the whole family. She was getting into college. She says, "I'm going to be a chiropractor." I said the same thing to her. "Get in, I'll take you to lunch. Shadow me a couple days in the office, go to 3 other offices." She would have been phenomenal. And she came back to me. She goes, "You know what? God, you guys work so hard. I had no idea it was like so physical and you work so hard," which was crazy because I've been seeing her since she was a baby. And I was like, okay, but it was great to see him. And that was the only one that ever said I didn't want to do it. So
That's perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can go to his YouTube channel. You can follow him on Facebook. Joe, I know for a fact Joe Borio is not hard to get in touch with at all,
Yeah.
and he will help set you on the straight path.
Sure.
He's helped me tremendously. And again, I don't know that there is, and this is no knock against the other coaches. I know a lot of coaches, but I don't know that there's one out there that is as genuine as you are, who authentically will listen and answer the questions as best you see the answer to be. So I certainly appreciate you helping us kick off this thing that we're trying to do, we're not big wigs in chiropractic. Travis and I just freaking love chiropractic. We love
Absolutely.
it. We love the profession. And so we want to help the students in any manner that we can. We are both successful chiropractors. I attribute some of that success certainly to you, Joe. And I also attribute it to the people that I hang out with and my group that I hang out with. They are all successful doctors in their own way. So we want to make that success more accessible for these students who are broke as shit. They're right. They don't have a ton of money or anything.
Yes.
So they need access to that so you can hand the torch off and they can be the next generation to do the same. So
one thing real quick, Wes, I have a checklist on how to start a practice. It's just a checklist. I think it's like 80. It's not the 110 checklist. It's an 80 list, but I'll kick that over to you tomorrow and you can share it with the guys. And it just goes through kind of an 80 bullet point where you got to, from phone, paper clips, desk, adjusting table. It at least gives you an outline of what you're looking for to open an office. So.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, gentlemen, it was good hanging out with you, Joe. Thank you so much. That cup of coffee worked, brother.
Honor.
Go to bed, man. Go to bed.
Go to bed.
I'm up now. Shit, we might as well just keep talking.
Where's the party? Well, I got to go to bed now, Joe. Sorry, I didn't drink my coffee. No, it's my bedtime. I got to put all these animals to rest. All right. All right, gentlemen.
Well, great to see you. God bless you, man. You got a great dad.
You too. Y'all take care, man.
Good to see you guys.
Travis.
Take care.
See you, man. Bye.